If you are grieving over the death of a loved one or a loss of any kind, I encourage you to spend this time with Connie Hale, the director and founder of Faith Kept Ministries. Just when we thought that visitation ministry was becoming a thing of the past, Connie is very much encouraging it, and she is so well equipped. You may remember her visit with us in November of 2008. She is a champion over the darkness and wants to encourage you. You also can overcome whatever it is you're dealing with today. And Connie, you're sitting here looking like a bright penny, just so beautiful. But we need to say sincere sympathy. Your husband, Tom, was watching you from home when you were here last time.
Yes, he was.
And just 6 months later, he went home to be with the Lord.
Exactly, yes, he did. After we were married for 33 years, and I called it the beautiful, terrible journey. And it was terrible in the fact that he had to go so far, you know, so hard with the cancer. And yet it was beautiful that a couple like us could come so close together and be bonded and appreciate each other with our time and our talents, our gifts. It was wonderful in that respect.
You talk about the moments. It's not when you're given a diagnosis of 3 months to a year. You don't talk about days and weeks. You really savor and give thanks for every moment.
Exactly. I tell a story in my book about tailgating, as I would call it, and we would go to a store, a Canadian Tire, and we would sit there. We'd get our hot dog and our pop, and Tom would open the door of the Jeep and the tailgate, and we'd sit there and enjoy a hot dog and pop, and we'd watch the people go by, and Tom, he had such a positive outlook, and he would say, "Connie, doesn't the air feel so good? Oh, the sun feels so good on my face. This hot dog is so good. Isn't it great that we're together?" We actually appreciated each other. You know, so many times you're married for a long period of time, and you almost take each other for granted in a small way. You think they're always going to be around, but we knew we had sacred time. We only had so much time together. And
surely you're valuing of each other.
Yes.
And just this positive attitude. I mean, Tom beat the odds. He lived 3 years.
He did, because of his humor. He was so humorous and a positive attitude, and loved his family and friends. And he wouldn't give up until the very end. I remember him saying, "Connie, I'd like to stay and fight, but the fight is all gone out of me now." At the end of 3 years, when the cancer moved to his brain, it went from the colon to the liver to the lung, and when it metastasized to his brain, he had 30 days to live, just one calendar page left of his life. And you know, he couldn't feed himself, he couldn't really walk, and he then knew that he said, "I'm going to be with God, and I'm going to see my mom." And he said, "And one day, Connie, I'll be waiting for you." And so it was a beautiful journey, as well as terrible.
Now, some will remember the lighter side.
Yes.
The coffee can story.
Oh, yes.
And there's kind of a PS to that.
Yes, well, we had went to see the movie The Bucket List, and Tom said to me, "That's what I want. I want my ashes placed in the Chuck Full of Nuts coffee can, because that's the heavenly coffee." So I did write to the company, and at first they said, "Oh, we don't deliver to Canada." And then I told them my story, our story, and they said, "Yes, we would be glad to deliver a can of coffee." But instead they delivered 6 huge cans of coffee and the DVD, The Bucket List, and a letter saying that our story touched their company on a personal level. And I placed the ashes, you know, in the coffee can when he died, and I bought like a little kind of cement box, and we put him there. And for the memorial that we had in our backyard, my son Joel made a beautiful garden, and he is there in our backyard in the garden, and with 2 little lights that shine all the time. Wow. Yeah, and so you know, I can visit him anytime, and that's where we had the memorial. And I do have a
You conducted his funeral.
Yes, I did.
I haven't mentioned you've been a pastor for 10 years.
Yes, and I did do the officiating of his funeral because I thought that I knew him the best and that I could bring honor to him and glory to God. And so people said to me, "Oh, Connie, you're so courageous to do this." And I said, no, that wasn't courageous. What is courageous is to live without Tom every day. I mean, I would sit at my table and I would look out the window and I would say, he's really gone. He's really not ever coming back. He's really gone. See, when death occurs, you know it, but it doesn't get really deep inside your being, your heart, until months later.
Yes.
And I was fortunate, like I had very good friends that would stand by me and listen to my stories hundreds of times. I would tell it over and over because grief is hard work. And but they were there to hear the story, and
You say you can't wait grief out.
Yes.
Or push it away.
Right.
If you do, it actually grows.
Yes, it does. You have to go right through it. You have to face it and go right through it. I remember in the nights, you know, people say you would cry. I said, no, I would wail. I would wail. It was like, it was just so tearing of the spirit and the soul, like when you lose a partner like that. And during the day, it was like a tidal wave of grief that would just come. I could be in a grocery store, it could be anywhere.
I call it the waves of grief.
Yes, the
tidal
waves of
waves
grief that would come and go.
And didn't you in some of those moments wonder how many other normal-looking people pushing a cart are dealing with this kind of pain? They're just pushing
loss,
through their
yes.
day, and they're in this deep place.
Just like me, but we don't show it, we don't tell people. And that's why I, you know, here today too to say, tell your story.